Hi. I read you one story and you were just so excited. Yeah, you really were. That I thought I would read you another one. Okay. This one is called Breakfast with Obama and Cinderella. I'm trying to get the light right because this is just all too scary. I think this is the best lighting, which I find really alarming, but forget all that. Okay, Breakfast with Obama and Cinderella. The 2016 election season dredged up just a smidge too much future angst, while I also stared down my third birthday prior to turning 70. Only 2 more celebratory years and I will have officially arrived. My new motto is, self-delusion is my friend. Who cares what I look or sound like if I can fake myself out that I've still got it? Assuming I ever possessed it. Perhaps I am only now recognizing my own delusional proclivities. A trip from my home in Miami Beach to the warm mineral springs in mid-Florida seemed like an appropriate antidote to stress and tension. After all, this place is a candidate for Ponce de Leon's Fountain of Youth status. It's kind of like Ray's Original Pizza. There's more than a few claimants. I discovered this double ode to 1952 from word of mouth, since the warm mineral springs and nearby decade-adjacent motel are not regularly noted in any guidebook listed in this century that I am aware of. Casually but relentlessly being refurbished, the motel is a throwback to the road trip of my youth. Before I-95 and turnpikes, one had to actually drive through states and farmland and town centers, eating at local diners before bedding down in these L or U-shaped motor lodges. The advent of the family car trip necessitated cheap accommodations with your heavily laden vehicle parked with easy accessibility to the front door. A full-size refrigerator occupied one corner of our motel room, standing like a museum sculpture, underlining a lifestyle of that era. A small sink and rudimentary flatware, plates and pans rounded out the facilities to feed your brood from the barbecue grill located outside the back door next to simple table and chairs. Motels in Florida generally formed a horseshoe-shaped. A swimming pool was plunked on a raised central location so parents, tired from the day's journey with several bouncing, bleeding, bored, and bothered children in the back seat, could release clenched jaws and drooping eyelids with carefully stirred up cocktails. A moment of adultness was possible as parental duties were assuaged by the proximity of their progeny jumping and screaming around the pool with other families. People were not so prone to tossing out hard-earned cash for restaurant food in the 50s, as fiscal responsibility and pre-credit card era reality loomed over college-bound families. Alas, when all else fails, all else fails. My BFF Lola and I amassed our gear for the day's warm mineral springs outing. Our floaty water noodle toys, personal snacks, a book, towels, lotion, bug repellent, and Easter bonnets to keep delicate facial skin from desiccating any more than is absolutely necessary for our age group. As we drove into the site's parking lot, we noted a sadly lacking vehicular population. Trudging with our piles of day luggage across the dusty lot, we were informed at the check-in desk that the springs were closed till tomorrow. An errant gator chose my one day of zen to park his carcass somewhere in the springs. A bevy of lifeguards were stationed around the springs, staring, awaiting any telltale bubbles. I'd forgotten alligators need to come up for air once in a while. A critter hunter armed with gator noises and cages was poised to nab the sucker when he arose from 325-foot depths of the warm mineral springs in Northport, Florida. I I screeched out laughing at this news. How Florida, how perfectly perfect a postscript to this difficult season of uncertainty. I felt like we were playing out an episode of the Griswolds Take a Vacation farce in real time. I heard tell that one warm Mineral Springs leathery gate crasher was so huge he had to be airlifted out of the pond by helicopter. Think about that. We learned a lot that day as we struggled to fill up the large reptile-sized hole in our plans. Our motel was of Googie architecture, a type I was not familiar with and most definitely excited to trot out to my architecturally savvy friends and watch their faces glaze over as they coped with the fact that this was a pile of cement and boards that was foreign to them. I relished the moment of architectural superiority. My traveling buddy is more than a fan of the Big Lebowski and can fall over in mirthful hysterics just mentioning a turn of phrase from the dude's repertoire. It was my personal favorite, the rug ties the room together, or, careful man, there's a beverage here. No wonder she ended up in this odd plot of Florida land located splat on Route 41's Gulf Coast. Turns out the LA bowling alley diner and house from the Lebowski movie is of Googie architecture, also known as Populux, doo-wop, post-World War II American futurism style. It's going to be a test, so really pay attention. Listen up. The space-age 50s and 60s architecture is also iconified in the Jetsons TV show. In Miami, it's been rebranded to MIMO, Miami Modern Architecture. If you absolutely must know, Googie was the nickname of Lillian K. Burton, the wife of the original owner of Googie's Diner in LA. That's going to be in the test too, so did you write it down? Go ahead, write it down. The next day, we decided to smile down on our still not yet blissful souls as we opened the sliding glass door onto the verdant common garden of our 1952-era motel on that vaguely nippy early mid-Florida winter morning. I was on deck to score us breakfast and had to pad past several other rooms along the inner sanctum of the warm Mineral Springs motel to get to the teensy Motor Inn lobby for our free breakfast. I am way past caring about my appearance, being as I'm so far from home and youthful cuteness that I'm fine sporting my very fave lime green and brown moose pajamas purchased in Portland, Maine, many moons ago. Maine is appropriately scrawled across the hip bone of the jammy bottoms, like right here. As I entered the lobby area, the Indian owner was yakking away in Hindi on his phone, or so I thought. Opening my mouth to levy a broad grin, good morning. I quickly realized he was chanting his morning prayers, sitting feet up on the bouncy desk chair behind the scratched up but wonderfully original undulating wooden check-in desk of said era, which I made them promise in blood not to ditch in their zeal to refurbish the place. I carefully perused the crinkly wrapped breakfast pastries of the identical age of the architecture before pouring barely lukewarm water into a styrofoam cup, augmented with a Lipton tea bag, grabbed a few bananas, a tangerine, and poured 2 small cups of coffee to decant into Lola to jumpstart her engines. Tiptoeing out of the lobby, lest I disturb morning prayers, I returned to our tiny round outdoor table near the sliding glass doors fronting our room, depositing the morning fare with a flourish befitting the doors sunk. At about this time, Lola stumbled out with asterisk eyes to view the day. Her ritual of pouring a packet of Nestle hot chocolate powder with tiny dehydrated marshmallows into her coffee completed the wake-up activity. In short order, it was Lola's turn to trot back to the lobby breakfast spread for a second go at it. So there I was, lounging in mismatched pajama gear in front of our Googie-era sliding glass doors, drinking in warm Florida sunshine with my tepid tea, when I see Lola returning from the lobby with yet another cup of coffee, her gray-on-gray hoodie sweatshirt beautifully complementing a skewed matching nightie and flip-flops. I then spotted Obama, the resident wood stork, running on his black stick legs behind her, knowing full well she just came from the great food source lobby, and he's darn tootin' he's going to get him some. Twinkies are his most favored breakfast foods, as far as I can tell. He rejects fruit and vegetables, especially crunchy stuff, as I suppose he does not have the mandibular equipment for those things. Lola put her breakfast loot down on the table and sat down just as Obama's pointy dark head joined us as exactly the right level. We happily enjoyed the morning coffee clutch as Obama chowed down on last night's cold noodles and feta cheese from our in-room mega fridge stash. We're a happy threesome while the world melted away. Birdies tweeted and flapped around us as chipmunks and squirrels got on with their busy day. I had a flash of the scene in Cinderella where all the forest creatures help her dress in that blue confection in which she nabbed the prince's lust and love. You know the one. It was quite a 180 from the gloomy doom of election overload. My moose pajamas were the perfect outfit for this forest idol, I mused smugly. I still got it in terms of appropriate fashion sense for any occasion. As an aside, you may be pondering the genesis of naming a wood stork Obama in the belly of Florida's conservative Gulf Coast region. Very simple. Obama is both black and white. Politics/race relations can follow the most stringent of reality abstinence plans. A white ibis flew in from stage left to survey the situation. Lola and I wondered if a crossbreed love affair was appropriate for this particular political climate. Obama was not so interested and suspected the ibis of horning in on his Twinkie and devil dog connection. So much for high romance. I had a full morning to soak in the hot springs should the gods allow. I had to mosey on to a weekend writing workshop in nearby Sanibel Island by nightfall, but Lola decided another 24 hours of avoiding the great abyss of real life was an inspired decision and stayed on by herself. After breakfast, we repeated the previous day's preparation and drove 5 minutes down the road to find that, yes, indeed, the alligator had been plucked from the sulfur-laden depths of the warm mineral springs. We scored a couple of plastic Adirondack chairs in pink and aqua and draped legs and arms comfortably over the pastel slats. It struck me anew that living in Florida is such a good idea if you avoid the hype and drang of modern PR surrounding the tedium of our state that dangles like a participle from the groin of the United States southeast coastline. That's the end of that story, but keep in mind, it was like 2017, so a few things have happened since then. So, yeah, fill in the blanks. Anyway, you can't hang around on the phone or in front of your computer listening to drivel anymore, because this is all I got, and you probably have other things to do. So, all right, let's go do something a little more meaningful than this. Bye.